when we get disturbed, when we are sad, when we are depressed, all of these lead to eruption of different diseases. So there is a connection between person's mind and his skin. Thank you very much, dear. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be with you all. Well, you know, the skin is the largest organ in the body. In fact, skin is bigger than the person himself because overlaps and covers the whole body. And skin is the first thing that any individual, the person opposite you, can see. Therefore, one of the largest organs in the body, the largest, and it is related to the beauty. It has got medicine, functions. It's has its role with feelings. When we blush, when we are angry, when we are sad, when we are happy. It also changes with the change in the weather. Cold, then it's different. When it's hot, it's different. So it interacts and people can see. I find skin one of the most important organs in the body. Besides, it has a lot of functions. For example, perspiration for cooling of the body, for getting rid of the toxins from inside through sweat glands, and so on. There are plenty, of course, of the functions, but I just mentioned very few of them.
What are the more common diseases and what areas can people be aware of?
Well, the diseases of the skin, one can be fungal infections, varieties of fungal infections. Then there are bacterial infections, and then we have viral infections of the skin. And the fourth one, which not much known by the public, but it does exist, even though it is rare, it's exposure to irradiation. These are the diseases that normally people suffer from. In the past, bacterial infections were very, very common. And pyodermas of all varieties, infections, bacterial infections were there. But with the passing of the time and the improvement in the standards of the living, you find that these bacterial infections have reduced, except for very few which continue to remain, like, for example, acne, pimples on the face. Those diseases or form of diseases or group of diseases continue to be there. But otherwise, the pyodermas of all varieties have reduced tremendously. We have fungal infections, which is very common, and they are very persistent and develop resistance to the medicines and medications, antifungal treatments very fast. Therefore, they are here to stay, and some of them are very stubborn, difficult to handle, though it's not impossible. Viral infections are very few. All treatments are available for them, and but they are not as common as bacterial or the fungal infections. These are the common diseases of the skin. Now, we have other skin diseases which is related to the immunity of the human being. So, for example, we have diseases which, papulosquamous disorders of the skin, which, characterized by eruption of the papules, macules, plaques, and so on, which, different forms of lesions which erupt from within when the body is trying to get rid of itself and the toxins and the poisons within through the skin. As we know, normally the body tries to get rid of the toxins and unwanted things, one, through urine, two, through stool, three, through breathing, inhaling, exhaling. And finally, the last line of defense for the body is to get rid of its toxins through the skin. So when the toxins and the poisons begin to come out of the skin, we know the matter is really serious through the pores of the skin. So the skin has this mechanism to help the body rid itself from all the infections. So all the papulosquamous disorders, all the viral infections, most of the abnormal tissues within the skin, is commonly found today in the OPD of the dermatology.
Oh, yes. Our that is environment continue to the depth of the condition.
Yes, very true. You see, our body reflects and reacts to whatever it is exposed to. For example, if I go to the sunlight and get exposed to the irradiation or ultraviolet rays, certainly the body shows itself, the skin shows itself by erythema, redness, and by rise of the temperature, and so on. So the best way, if we are talking about the health of the skin, if we want to talk about how to keep the skin healthy against all those factors which I mentioned just now, then in that case, what we need to do is first keep away from too much of exposure to sunlight. Sunlight is, although it is very important and it's very good, but its excess or excessive exposure to ultraviolet rays of sunrise or sun in general is not very healthy. So that is one. Second thing, we have to avoid any drying factors. For example, the drying factors are too much of soap, too much of detergents, too much of alcohol, too much of creams, too much of chemicals in the name of cosmetics. All of these chemicals used on the skin can, over the long period of time, cause problems and damage the stratum corneum, which is the outermost layer of the skin. So the wind, one thing, and then second thing is ultraviolet rays, sunlight exposure. Third is to keep our stomach clean. because the GIT, gastrointestinal tract, is directly and indirectly connected to the health of the skin. So if we keep it clean, if we keep ourselves hydrated sufficiently, then we will have a vibrant, radiant, healthy skin.
How can you deeply and more clear in you?
Well, it is not easy, especially for a common man who is not trained, to differentiate between a rash and other serious conditions. Generally, the rash is a sign and a symptom of a much bigger disease within the body. And unless and until we know the cause of the rash, answering this question will be a little more difficult. So I think if we talk about a simple rash due to sun exposure, due to extra heat, or maybe perhaps we have eaten something that is not, has not agreed with us, and it has led to eruption of the lesions, which are, maybe papules, macules, flat lesions, changing the color. So then in that case, probably we can call it, it's a benign, or we can call it a simple rash, which can be treated with creams and ointments, sunscreens, and so on. But there are conditions where there is cancer, malignancies. Those are, of course, different, and each case is different from the other. We will not be able to generalize it as a whole.
I have been reading up on the health effects on our skin. It seems like it is both very something in your with how in this the year the sun may for us to see her.
Yes, you see, no doubt that sun rays are best source of vitamin D for our body. And it is very important that we expose our skin to sunlight, particularly the early hours of the day, for a very short time. That would be the best thing. And the rest of uh, the extra exposures that we might have to expose ourselves, we can take protection by using umbrellas, by using sunscreens, by avoiding direct sunlight, by walking in areas where there is more shades, by reducing our exposure to the heat that emanates from the stove while cooking. These are different sources of ultraviolet A rays, ultraviolet B rays, ultraviolet C rays. So all these three types can be avoided by the different methods which I told you. Avoid direct sun exposure for long hours, and to use the umbrella, or use the something to cover yourself. And of course, the best way is to use sunscreens, the ideal sunscreens available.
For other baby a few of really days
Well, yes. You see, benefits outweighs the harmful or risks of sunscreen. If one can if one can know the type of his skin, then he can use the right sunscreen. For example, for a very oily skin, one should use a lotion or a solution sunscreen. For a dry skin, I advise a sunscreen cream, which is more greasy. So while it protects them against the ultraviolet rays and the sun exposure, it also um, gives them that moisture their skin needs. So that's how I think. So now the sunscreens come up with SPF, in every bottle of the skin which you buy or you see in the market, there is something called SPF, which means sun protection factor. Normally, they are 30%, 50%, 60, or even 100%. I feel for us in India, this part of the world, uh, sun protection factor SPF 50 sunscreen lotions would be ideal for most of the people of our skin type.
Diet for the AIHEARU role in the health.
Yes, of course. The skin has to have all the nutrients that a person can give it because the skin is the largest organ in the body and undergoes a lot of beating, basically. When we go out, we have ultraviolet rays which attack us. We go out, then we have sun and wind, especially exposure to the wind. When we are at home, we expose our skin to soaps, detergents, chemicals. When we want to go out, we add up perfumes and all kinds of different chemicals we expose on our skin. So therefore, the skin really needs to be looked after all of these beatings that it receives. So in my opinion, I think one has to strike a balance in everything. First, his diet should be a balanced diet, which contains good proteins, good amount of minerals, and the skin. One has to see that if his skin is dry, uses soaps which are more has more moisture, more of oil in it, or if the skin is oily, then he has to go for some stronger soaps so that he can remove the excess oil on the skin with the soap which is meant for that purpose. So now the question is, what soap is the best soap? Which skin is the best skin? My answer is all the skin is good as long as man knows how to look after it. And what soap is the best soap? Again, it depends on what type of the skin you want to use this soap for. If when I was young, I had very oily skin and I had a lot of pimples. So I had to take a soap which was strong. And that soap would help me get rid of the excess oil on my skin. And as a result of which, my pimples started reducing. But I know a lot of people who have dry skin and their skin becomes scaly, wrinkled, even pigmentary changes, and then a soap which contains a lot of natural oils would be best for that type of skin. So we have to use our own judgment, strike a balance for what skin, what type of soap to take.
And with her the who how good and what are some of many
Yes, that is true.
Oh,
You see, when we are in the womb of a mother as an embryo, this small little tiny ova which gets fertilized, and then that small ova starts becoming into a form of human being. It has, it is made of, the whole body is made of three layers: ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. One of these layers, one of these layers leads to formation of the brain and the skin. So in that way, we understand that the origin of the skin as well as the origin of the brain is one and the same. That's why when we are born and in life we grow, any small little thing that reflects on our mind shows its effects on our skin. When we get disturbed, when we are sad, when we are depressed, all of these lead to eruption of different diseases. So there is a connection between one's mind, a person's mind, and his skin.
the heat of them is always gone. What are the advantages in the treatment of chronic disease?
Yes. You see, the skin being the organ which is seen directly, when you meet a person, first thing about him is that you will notice his skin. You look at his face, you look at his body, his hands. So what you see is the skin. And it is the very largest organ. Therefore, um, it is noticed and it's very important. Most of the research in the field of medicine has been mostly about the skin, research about skin, developing different modalities of treatment for skin, finding solutions for pigmentary disorders, for different types of abnormalities of the skin. So the research mostly goes towards finding solutions for better health of the skin. Up to 80% of the amount given for the research in the fields, different by different countries, is for the field of dermatology.
What are the most advantages in which AI disease?
Artificial intelligence found its deserving position at the moment. Therefore, it's at the beginning, and there is a lot of research going on, a lot of questions to be answered. And it's basically artificial intelligence is used as a diagnostic or prognostic tool to diagnose a disease. And then next stage is to know how this disease being treated and if this treatment is sufficient or enough to get cured or to be treated by the existing treatments. It is being used at the early stages. It's a pioneering, stage at the moment. It's at its infancy, and it's going to take a long time where it takes its deserving position. But now, at the moment, those two, diagnostic and prognostic role that it has, and they have been doing well with it.
There are many about years of the part of the most common ones you have information.
Well, it's these misconceptions are as large as the races that live on Earth generally. And the type of treatments, grandmothers sometimes suggestions for the treatments, starting from there, coming down, trickling down. There are a lot of misconceptions about the health of the skin, which is in the past, for example, using different types of stones to rub on the skin and make it look, for example, more shiny, more radiating, not knowing that, this could lead to wrinkling of the skin, for example, laxity of the skin. So, with the passing of the time, these misconceptions are reducing gradually. And being, a place or an organ that most research being done today, I think a lot of light is thrown on this largest organ in the body, and they are going in the right direction now at the moment.
Many people can notice that along the image and lost in other way.
You see, everything in excess could be dangerous and harmful. I feel that when we go to the sunlight during the daytime at the peak hours, then best we can use the sunscreen, which would be wonderful to protect us against the sunlight. So sunscreens that way, they are very good. And with that, it can help us not only getting tanned unnecessarily, but also protect us against the skin cancer. But at the same time, sunscreens contain moistures. These moistures mostly benefit the skin and protects the skin from the sunlight. So I think sunscreens have been doing very well. And the sun itself, if an individual exposed to the sunlight for a very short time during the early hours of the day, will benefit from the vitamin D that he can receive for free, made by God. But exposure to the sun for long hours could be hazardous. Now, regarding the cancer, skin cancer, basically, we need to know to identify the skin cancer or the malignancy. There are signs and symptoms for the cancer. One is that the skin cancer, it is raised lesion. Lesion means, abnormal skin. So it will be raised. It will have irregular borders. On the surface, there will be scaly. And then there is a change in the color. There will be change in the color. There will be change, there will be immobility of the skin in that area. So rubra, redness, darkness of the patches, some places purple color, some places pink color, some places reddish color. It will be a mixed one. Irregular borders, scaly on the surface, and it will be fixed to the skin. These are the different morphological findings of the cancer of the skin. Now we come to the other factors of the skin. One is that for those who are having prolonged exposure to sunlight. Second thing, there is racial predisposition in a way that white skin people are more prone to cancer, skin cancer, than the dark people or people of Africa. 90% of all skin cancers are with the white skin people. And then the rest of it with the colored skin. And maybe 1% of the total number of skin cancers belongs to the African race. So this is another point that one has to remember. So the best way to avoid it is to have a balanced life and avoid exposure to sunlight, go for routine checkups, and after that, if you find anything suspicious, immediately at the early stages, visit your consultant, your physician, and try to address the issue and treat it.
So, do you have any medicine for our group on how to take care of the disease?
Yes. First, sunlight, ultraviolet rays are extremely important for the health of our skin, tissues, bones, and rest of the part of the body. So sunlight, ultraviolet rays are very important, but prolonged exposure to sunlight is harmful. Second thing, a balanced life is very important. Means that we sleep 7 to 8 hours a day at least. We drink plenty of water, maybe about 2 liters a day. 3, eat a balanced diet which contains proteins, calcium, minerals, and carbohydrates in a balanced way. And then the exercise so that we have a better blood circulation all over our body. And we have a mental peace when whoever exercises will be a calm person, relatively. And that's very important. And finally, keeping the skin healthy, clean, and away from the toxins, whether oral or application.
And that is every level I'm going to hear your thoughts on the IU app.
Well, artificial intelligence, AIHEARU, it's a wonderful initiative by this application. And I'm happy and very pleased to have been with you. You all are doing a wonderful job creating awareness amongst the people in different fields and faculties. Bravo. It's wonderful to see that this kind of work is being done amongst you. I'm sure you will go a very long way in life and long way in this field. And my good wishes, my best wishes are always with you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anand, for sharing your knowledge and me up with your never improving every day.
Thank you, dear. My pleasure. Anytime.
Goodbye for now. And for more on Anand work.
Certainly, we will meet again.